Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coaches Show. This week I'm back, and Lloyd Shoemaker, along with Coach Bill Neese over here, the head of the Indian Nation. Coach, first of all, I want to say congratulations on your win Friday night over Fairborn. Nice win, adds to your record and the team's record. And that's important for all of us that are watching the Indians. I also want to thank our sponsors, first of all, tonight. Our main sponsor, First Choice Paint and Body Shop, located on North 25A here in Piqua, Ohio. If you have a dent in your car and need to get it fixed or just want to have it put back together after an accident, you want to go see First Choice. Our halftime sponsor is Coverman Staley Dickerson Insurance. They have 3 offices in Miami County, 1 in Troy, 1 in Greenville, and 1 in downtown Piqua. And we also have a new sponsor with us this week. That's Buckeye Insurance Group here in Piqua, Ohio. Coach, 28-14, tied 14-14 halftime. Did Fairborn win the toss and take the ball?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Did you flip him $5 or something to do that?
No. I thanked him.
Well, that's what it looked like to me, but I couldn't tell from what the officials were doing. But all of a sudden I saw that he was receiving. I thought, well, way to go, Coach. We got what we want. And it turned out to be a good thing for us.
It was. And anytime you get that opportunity that you get somebody out of it quick and maintain field position, it's good for your offense.
Do you think they had that philosophy that I once had in my life when I said, if you're strong offensively, go out and score first?
I believe so. I believe that. I believe they wanted to jump in right from the get-go. I think when you look, sometimes when they looked at our defense over the past couple of weeks, they probably assumed that our offense was a little stronger than our defense.
Yeah.
Thus, if they can get points on the board immediately, then they could just get in a scoring match with our offense.
So anyway, Fairborn took the kickoff, and you're not. I noticed that you're not squibbing it. You're not popping it. You're kicking it deeper.
Yes. We eliminated the pop-up while you were out of the state. We took it upon ourselves to eliminate the pop-up. I just couldn't take it anymore. It was not working the way we wanted it to work. We were losing field position in the meantime. It was an experiment that went awry. Luckily, we admitted it early enough, and we're able to get some people that can run down the field, get the ball down the field a little bit more, and it turned out to be excellent for us. Our starting field position this week was at the 26-yard line rather than last week, which was at the 47-yard line.
Yeah. Well, on the average in those first games where you were doing that, it had to be almost close to the 40 every time.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure there's some people out there that are congratulating me for making that move also.
Hey, you're just one heck of a coach.
Well, it just didn't work, and you got to be at least smart enough to know when it's not working and change something.
And I got to say this anyway. It wasn't a game that I would have been proud to buy a ticket to in the first half. It was sort of a dishwater kind of first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It caused us to do a lot of, actually do a lot more coaching than what we normally do, because there were some things that were new, some different. They were throwing some stuff at us defensively that we hadn't seen before. We didn't react as well as what we should have. I think our defense was all right. We ended up and got scored on a couple long plays, just missed tackles, things like that. Nothing more of an X's and O's, but I think offensively we were a little bit more concerned with the X's and O's of it.
You talk about a couple of missed tackles. I thought the tackling Friday night was a lot better than you've been doing all year long.
It has been, and we continue to work at it. It's a work in progress. And in every game, it's a different game because there's different styles, different runners. But I thought our kids did a great job of getting people on the ground out in open space when they had to. You're right.
It seemed like they were tackling lower and not higher. First quarter, back and forth. Nobody really did much of anything in that first quarter, and it seemed like they had somebody spying on Yeomans all night, didn't they? Did they have one guy keying on him?
Well, the problem that we had was that they were running a couple different defenses or variations of defenses that were leaving an extra guy in the box, that we couldn't account for. Oh. And so what we needed to be able to do is we need to be able to get our passing game, our outside passing game, more into sync, that when that happens, that when they get that extra guy, they sneak that extra guy in the box, then we have to be able to make them pay the price, out in the exterior of it. Yeah,
and you did. You got the ball out there. You got it to Colton. You got it to just about all your receivers.
Yeah, well, our offensive coaches do a great job of being able to see that. You just don't know. It's kind of like you study film, and then you come into the game and within 2 plays, everybody is on the phone saying they're doing nothing that they've done. They just reinvented. Sometimes coaches, if you're not playing very well, you reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And they kind of reinvented themselves a little bit.
Well, you're right, and they're setting up there. They're looking down on the ball game, and you know, all of a sudden you look at all your notes and you think there's nothing here that's going on out there, so
No.
we got to make new notes.
Yeah, and you've got to make sure that you then have to. The biggest thing is you have to portray it to the kids.
Yeah.
You got to get those, especially those offensive linemen. You got to get those guys off on the side. You got to say, this is where they're at. This is what we do. And because if you've ever talked to offensive linemen during a course of a high school football game, there's 5 different interpretations of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy was here, the guy was here, the guy was here. So you got to make sure that everybody knows where they're lined up, and then adjust their blocking rules.
It appeared to me that you started the ball game with Dylan Cole in safety and Alex up as a
Yeah.
linebacker. Did you switch them back and forth during the night, or was that a
No, Alex stayed at corner the whole time.
Did he?
Yep.
Okay, you found that's working better for you?
Well, for this particular game, it was. Their quarterback's a left-handed quarterback. And what we found is the left-handed quarterbacks, if you split the field in half, we have a couple different charts. Heath Butler, our secondary coach, charts a couple different things. And one of the things we charted is over on the left-hand side, there was a ton of balls being thrown. On the right-hand side, there wasn't that many. Well, Andrew Lee's natural position is on the right-hand side, so we left him there. And all we did was move Alex over to the left, to knowing the fact that Alex would be able to maybe press the coverage a little bit more if we needed to press the coverage. And we felt that Dylan was a little bit bigger, and Dylan being in the middle was going to be able to solidify a little bit of their option game.
Does he have the speed, Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan's a great athlete, and we played him back further than when we normally play our safety. And as a result, he was able to make plays. Dylan's a very smart guy. Dylan is not going to run a 4.5, but Dylan's never going to put himself in position where he's got to run a 4.5 to catch it. He's always going to have that perfect angle.
Got the angle.
Yeah, so he's a smart kid.
Yeah, I noticed that right off, and I thought, well, this got to be. I got to ask the coach about this and why he made that switch. Penalties hurt us in the first quarter. We ended up 7 penalties for 65 yards on the game. Number of blocking in the back.
Yeah. Good. Is that good news or bad news? We're on our receivers a ton about blocking. Our receivers, receivers in general like to catch the ball, don't like to block a whole lot. And our receivers have just been getting better and better and better with their blocking. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. Those were plays that were aggressive plays, but they're plays that we also have to be smarter.
Yeah.
The one was close, but the other two, we probably could have done without them. We just have to be smarter on what we're doing.
Yeah, well, it's nice to pat him on the back and say, hey, you're doing a good job of blocking, but let's do it from the front from now on.
Correct.
Type of thing.
Yep.
Fairborn finally gets on the board first on a 3rd and 15 for their own 33, a 65-yard pass play, 7-0 Fairborn.
Yeah, it kind of surprised us because everything was going smooth and we were very comfortable, and we switched the coverage and we had a coverage break where one guy didn't catch the coverage call, and obviously his guy then was wide open.
Yeah.
And as a result, they took advantage of it. And it's to their credit that we have one guy make a mistake and they were able to find that guy and score. So we learned our lesson from it. We backed off a little bit, and a couple of things we were doing defensively and got a little bit more basic.
Junior quarterback for Fairborn, Gordy, left-hander. Not too bad a player.
No. He was gone into the game. He was, I think, 3rd or 4th in GWAC in passing yardage. So he can throw the ball. He can get the ball to open receivers.
Following the Fairborn touchdown, kicked it off to Tate. That was a mistake. Broke
Big
it downfield. The only thing I was disappointed in, when I was talking to him before we went on the air, I said, I always thought you were a speedster. Do you realize it took you 20 seconds to go 92 yards? He said something about some interference in the way.
He's got to be a little patient and let that wall form.
Yes.
And then once that wall forms, man, and I'll tell you what, the best part of that play was Tate at the very end. One guy had a chance and he just broke him down.
Yeah.
He just broke him down. But you got to give credit to Darian Tips Clemens and Trent Yeoman. Both of those guys had knockdown blocks to get him out there. But I'm going to tell you what, Tate finished it off. That was all him.
Yeah, and you're right about him taking his time to wait on that to set up. You can see he's looking for the slot, looking for the hole to take it into, and then he just spins rubber and goes.
Great. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was good. 20 seconds later, we're on the board. Point afterward is good. It's 7-7, and it's just nice to see him finally get in the end zone. He's had a couple of other opportunities where he just, the last guy or two, take him down. But the key block, you're right, Clemens, 74 yards, 22 seconds, came back. Point afterward was good, 14-7 for the good guys.
Oh, definitely. And you know, the thing I liked about the game, even though it was kind of a messy, sloppy first half, is that when they did something, when Fairborn did something, at least we were able to answer back.
Yeah.
We didn't let it get out of hand.
Right.
And I think that was a tribute to, you know, to our guys and maybe a little bit to the athleticism of our players.
Let me back up a minute and make some sense out of what I just said. Actually, Trent Yeomans ended up scoring, got in the end zone, but it was a block from Clemens, if I remember correctly, that broke him free.
Yeah.
A big block.
Yeah, Darian was breaking everybody for runs, and then Darian himself gets a big run at the end of the game that you'll probably talk about later.
Yeah. Fairborn comes back. We're up 14-7. Fairborn comes back and scores with 2:12 left in the second to tie the game at halftime with 14-14 with another pass play, and you go in at halftime and no real damage done. It's like you're starting all over again, 14-14. But were you feeling good? I was sensing a little bit of fatigue on the part of Fairborn, even at the halftime.
Yeah, probably they had some kids that were playing both ways, and you know, we knew. I think our feeling was we had some anger in our locker room because we felt that we had, you know, because of whatever we had done, you know, preparation wise, whatever we'd done that we weren't answering the call. And we thought we needed to do a better job in the second half of answering the call. Sometimes you go in as a coach and you say, hey, everything's all right. You do the FDR approach. Everything's all right. You know, the only thing you have to fear is fear yourself, and everything will be fine. The other time you got to go in, you got to say, hey, we got a battle on our hands here, and we got to stand up and fight. And I think we took that approach, you know, in this particular game because there was not a lot of, you know, the coaches were not happy, and I know some of our senior leaders were not very happy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out what happened in the third quarter and whether or not he's a motivator sitting over here next to me. So we'll be right back. We're going to talk to our halftime guest, Brandon Fries, big player for the Indians. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We'll be back to the coach in just a second. Right now, our halftime guest is Brandon Fries, the little fella on the offensive and defensive line. My goodness, you are a big guy, aren't you?
Yep.
And you're what's your weight now?
301.
Have we had a 300-pounder lineman out here before?
I think the closest would be Kevin Richardson last 2 years ago,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah. But he was taller, wasn't he?
About same height.
Same height. Mm-hmm. You've been primarily on the offensive side or defensive side, right?
Yeah.
And rumor has it you might be switching.
Yep. I'll probably be focusing on offensive line and have our other 300-pounder on defensive line.
Now, who's our other 300-pounder?
Tristan Cox.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
He's a sophomore this year too.
Is he as tall as you are?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Well, listen, let's talk about the game Friday night. You went down to Fairborn, finally got the win out of the way. What did you think about the first half of that ball game? Just didn't seem to flow the way we wanted it to go, did it?
Well, I think all the time you got to get your feet in the water before you really start swimming. Mm-hmm. So we were just kind of getting used to their defense, and then we started to get rolling.
Yeah. Well, in the second half, there wasn't any question about who had the best offensive line. Because you guys were just moving everything that got in your way.
Yep.
And the running backs were proving that by the yardage that they were gaining.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, we block for our guys, and we want them to run for us, and they do. So it's always nice to see them run out in front of you and know they're heading for the goal line.
Yeah. You ever try to catch one of them?
No.
It's not going to happen, is it?
Nope.
Not going to happen. So have you been a starter for all 3 or 4 years in high school?
My sophomore year, I got my varsity letter, but I wasn't a true starter. And last year, I started on the defensive line as nose guard and tackle. Yeah. And this year, I'm playing both and then mainly offense. Yeah.
Nose guard, that's got to be fun for you at your size, because that's just, come on, try to get me out of the way, right?
Just the wrecking ball.
Just the wrecking ball. It's great. So, good student?
Yep. I have a 4.3.
Excellent. Excellent. What are you going to do after high school?
I'm probably going to try to double major in mechanical engineering and aerospace engineering.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the market is wide open for engineers. If you were already done, you could find yourself a job just about any place in engineering right now.
Yep. That's I mean, it's definitely a great salary, and it's what I love to do. So.
Yeah. So you got a school picked out that you want to go to?
I'm not really certain on the school that I'm going to go to, so I'm still kind of looking.
Okay. You getting much interest from any football teams?
I have roster spots at UD and Davidson, which they're both in the Pioneer Football League,
Yep.
and then I'm looking at Ball State.
Okay. Good schools, all of them. Good schools. Well, listen, we've got 5 games out of the way so far this year.
Yep.
We're 3-2, and we've got Vandalia Butler coming up this Friday night. What do you know about Butler you can share?
They're a smash mouth football team, and I definitely rank them one below Troy for my rival, because it's just something about them Butler boys gets you going.
Did you have? Well, Decker's been gone for a while out of Vandalia. Did you ever get to play against him? He's a junior at Ohio State now, isn't he?
No, I didn't get a chance to play against
He was a
him.
horse. He's still a horse. But you're right. They have some big kids down there. They like to play smash mouth football. So what's any prognostication on what's going to happen Friday night?
Well, let's get the win.
Yeah.
That's
go.
that's all I got to
Let's
say.
Hey, well, listen, thanks for joining us. Good luck to you the rest of the year,
All right,
and good
thank
luck
you.
after you graduate. I'm sure you're going to make an excellent engineer.
All right.
All right. Hey, thanks for being with us. I do want to mention that we've got our Coverman Staley Dickerson Insurance Company as our halftime sponsor. We've also picked up another new sponsor, Buckeye Insurance. And when we come back, we're going to talk to the coach and finish out the ball game in the third and fourth quarter. Don't go away. Well, we're back with the coach. I want to thank again our sponsors, First Choice Paint and Body Shop, our main sponsor on 25A here in Piqua, Ohio, and then also our newest sponsor, Buckeye Insurance Group here in Piqua, Ohio, and then Coverman Staley Dickerson Insurance with an office in Troy, in in Covington, and in downtown Piqua, our 3 sponsors for the coach's show. Coach, we come out in the third quarter. Actually, it took most of the third quarter before we were able to score again, 37.1 seconds to go. A pass to Trent on 1st and 10 from Fairborn, 35. Extra point good, 21-14.
Mm-hmm. And that was a nice play, again, on our part. We'd scored on that a couple weeks ago with Trent coming out of the backfield, and that was another good call by our offensive coaches to get Trent out in the open.
Yeah, was this one of those things where they were looking from upstairs and saw something that we hadn't seen before and didn't expect and worked it in?
Well, yeah, and it's also kind of one of the things where, when you set up a formation, when you call down a formation, you're obviously looking at the play, but you're also looking at how they line up and how they're reacting on the other side of the formations and things like that. So what we saw is we were spread to one side, we were capped to the short side, and we felt like the guy flipped his hips and came pretty quick. So as a result, they just sent Trent out of the backfield right beside him.
Well, did you have more of your wide receivers on the other side and only one receiver on this side? Or I don't remember the formation.
Yeah, it was 3 receivers on one side, then we had just tight end. So we had a short side right over here, tight end, and it's in that corner, flipped a little bit and started coming across. And when he does that with the tight end coming across, you get that short field, bring it right to sideline.
Well, and if you can get Trent out there with the ball in his hands, I mean, you're down to where 2 guys may have a chance to tackle him instead of 9.
Definitely, and it's a play that we scored a touchdown last week at Northmont with that play, and we also, if you're, I don't know if anybody remembers or not, but the year we beat Wayne, Kyle Blair came out of the backfield and scored on that touchdown when we played over at Wayne. Yeah. So it's been a good play for us over the course of the years.
You mentioned the tight end. I know we got a pass into Monin. I believe it was Monin in the corner of the end zone. That short touch. Every time I saw him come onto the field, and it was a kind of a long situation or maybe a second and short, I expected to see him get that pass over the middle. You didn't do that all night, did you?
Well, it wasn't.
It wasn't there?
It wasn't there because of the fact that our run game had not been clicking. And so as a result, it was so muddy in the middle. Muddy by players, not muddy by the field, but it was just all
packed in there.
It was smoky, and we didn't. And since the run game was not really gashing him that much, we didn't feel like the play action was going to affect him at all. And we just couldn't, didn't seem to be a right time for that. But yeah, we really want to get him the ball more. You're right. I'd like to see him get the ball more.
Yeah. He does a good job just as a blocking end. I mean, he's almost
great,
like another
And again, he's
big lineman.
Yeah. And when you look at him, when you look at our offensive guard, Anthony Grunkelmeyer, we got 2 sophomores in there that are big, good-looking linemen.
Yeah. Clemens ends up scoring a touchdown, called back penalty. That was in the 4th quarter. Just another silly penalty, I guess. And the thing I like about that Clemens kid is that he just powers into people.
He guns it.
Don't get in my way.
He guns it. We had run our counter tray a couple times, and we kept bouncing it, and we were trying to tell the backs, don't bounce it, hit it vertically. And he came into the game, and I remember Coach Ole saying the last thing, now, Darian, make sure you hit it vertically, and Darian can hit it vertically.
Yeah.
And that's his specialty, and he hit that thing vertically, and he was gone.
He doesn't have that. I guess what I would refer to as the ignition, the really quick first or second step. But when he gets into that 4th and 5th step, he's got some power behind him and going.
He does. He does. He is a difficult man to tackle. It's amazing once he gets the ball and gets moving. It's painful.
Yeah.
It's painful to have somebody tackle him.
Well, we just mentioned a minute ago about Chad Monin getting in the scoring column with 10:40 to go in the 4th quarter on a pass from Rupert for 6 yards, and now it's 28-14. Rupert played a pretty good ball game Friday night, didn't
Rupert did all right.
He
He ended up and he got us out of a little trouble on a couple scrambles, and scrambled for probably one of the key first downs of the game.
Yeah, and one of the big things too is he hung on to the football.
Yeah, he did. When we say eliminate turnovers, a lot of it can be eliminated just by his trigger point, and if we can get that, because Trent very rarely fumbles. And Darian very rarely fumbles. So if we can get Rupert, taking care of the football like that, then we're usually in good shape turnover-wise.
We had a high school coach, Paul Krautzer, who you may or may not remember. He coached at Delphus and he coached out to Bath, where I went to high school. But if you fumbled in a football game, you carried one for a week.
Really? Yeah, Vince Lombardi used to do that.
Yeah, you carried one for a week. Okay, well, so you pretty well beat him down in that second half, in the last quarter and a half, especially, I thought, and as I mentioned earlier, I thought I was starting to see some fatigue from them when they went in at halftime. But the last quarter and a half, it was just power football up the middle. We're going to run it with somebody, just try to stop us.
I think it was. I think we did well there. I think a lot of other things clicked too. I think Noah Lyman did an outstanding job for replacing Dylan Runge as our kicker, and he was implemented the kick down the field. He was also perfect on all of his extra points. So I think, and we remember back last year how we struggled with those extra points, and now it's almost a given for us, as it should be.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, as it should be. And so I thought he did a nice job. Austin Hall did a nice job in a couple of his punts. Our coverage was good, and we had a couple quarterback sacks in the second half. So overall, I thought we were very solid in the second half.
Yeah, I thought it was a much different ball game from the standpoint of the Indians in the second half as it was the first half. It was much more exciting to watch. It's always exciting to watch when you're beating the other guys.
Yeah.
But it turned out, I thought, to be a good win for us. Puts us at 3-2 on the season, and we're headed south again on 75. Not as far, but we're going to go down to Vandalia and play Butler Friday night, who is now 1-4 on the season, following a loss to Springfield by 22 last Friday night.
Yeah, they're going through a little bit of a tough time, but I'm going to tell you what, and I know this has happened maybe to us a little, every once in a while, that they're probably as good a 1-4 team as you're going to find, in the fact that they've lost to Tecumseh by 1 point. Tecumseh's 5-0. They lost to Wilmington by 2 points. Wilmington's 5-0. And the third game they lost was another team that is now 4-1. All right, so right there, those 3 games, there's 3 teams that only have 1 loss between them, and that would be Xenia. They lost to Xenia by 6. Now, we scrimmaged Xenia, we scrimmaged Tecumseh. So we know if they're hanging with those guys that it's going to be pretty close. And, the win they had was against Springfield Shawnee, which is one of the premier teams. And then this past week, they just, they got it handed to them from Springfield.
Yeah. So in the past, they've always been, I remember big running backs, big, not real tall guys, but square-shouldered guys with maybe 220 pounds in running back. And they've always had somebody that could throw the ball.
Yep. And
So,
that has not changed.
Has not changed.
Has not changed. Their quarterback is in the top 5 in the GWAC. Their tailback is a squattier 180-pound guy. They also have another guy that's 220 pounds that runs back there. So they got 2 guys back there running. They got 3 guys that alternate at fullback that just ram, and open it up for them. And they've got a couple big linemen. So and they play defense almost exactly like we do in terms of how we line up, different techniques and so forth and so on. It's almost all the same.
Fake punt night?
They have a fake punt, and their fake punt is exactly like our fake punt. So we may have the battle of who's got the fake off the fake punt. We may have another one.
All right. Well, listen, it should be a pretty good ball game. And you talk about big fullbacks down there. I remember that game a few years ago, 7-0 late in the ball game down there. It was just back and forth, and that fullback just kept beating on us and beating on us and beating on us.
Yeah. The nicest thing we got this year, and I told a couple of our linebackers that we've had 3 weeks where we're going against spread offenses, and we've had 2 linebackers, 2 of some of our best people that have been on the sidelines because we got to be covering people out in space. And I said, guys, stay with me because there's going to be a couple games coming up as the season progresses that we're going to need 5 linebackers, and we're going to need somebody to come up and step up and rattle that fullback's cage. And Friday night's going to be that night, so we're going to need all 5 of those guys.
How are we doing on injuries?
We're doing great on injuries right now. We lost Dylan Runge because of a concussion last week. He didn't play last week. He's passed his protocol, so he's good to go for this week. Okay. But otherwise, we've been pretty fortunate in terms of the injuries.
Knock on wood. Let's keep it that way. The GWalk North right now has got Trotwood on top at 4-1. Piqua is second at 3-2. Sydney is 2-3. Butler and Greenville are 1-4, and Troy, unfortunately, I feel so bad about them being 0-5. You just kind of hope some point in there they end up winning the ball game. Maybe after the season they have a scrimmage with somebody, something like that. But we've got to play. We got to play Trotwood yet. We got to play Sydney yet. And Greenville's 1-4, but Butler's 1-4. We got to take them one at a time, though, right?
Yeah, we got to take them one at a time, and all of our goals are still, out there for us. Obviously we're not able to have an undefeated season, but we've got the GWalk North staring in front of us. Anybody that wins the GWalk North is going to go to the playoffs. Yeah. So I think that's a given. Number 2, and then number 3 and 4, we've got our rival games to finish up the season with Sydney and Troy. So hopefully we'll be able to win both of those games. So each game's important. I mean, when you talk to our players, a lot of our players say Trotwood's the big, their big game they look forward to. And Brendan Fries was just on here, and he said Vandalia is part of the package. I know a lot of these guys, deal with some Greenville guys. So I think week in, week out from this point on, everybody's got a pretty good reason to want to win the football game.
And you can't take any of them for granted at any part of the ball game.
Absolutely not. You can't take any of them for granted because everybody's explosive. You sit down there and watch, films of these guys, as they come in on trades, and everybody's doing some good things. I thought Sydney would look very impressive on film when I watched them a couple weeks ago against Fairborn. Yeah. So there's a lot of good football out there in the GWalk North.
Stat-wise from the ball game, we had a total of 320 yards, and Fairborn had 286. 229 of our 320 were on the ground, and Rupert was actually 7 of 15, about 50% in passing, for a total of 91 yards. They had 197 yards, Fairborn did, in the passing area. They had 10 penalties for 95 yards. We had 7 for 65, and what did we do on turnovers? We had 1 turnover in the ball game.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. No. Time of possession, 23 minutes, 22 seconds for the Indians, 21-20 for Fairborn. As I said, Dela Cruz was 7 out of 15 in passing for 91 yards. Yeoman had 142. They just can't seem to, somehow he gets into that big numbers. He's averaging 179 yards a ball game right now. Almost 900 yards in 5 games.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me a couple of days ago, they said, man, Yeoman hasn't done much the last 2 weeks. I said he rushed for almost 355 yards in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you take, like anything else, you take stuff for granted.
Well, they had a total of, where's the rushing yardage on here? They had a total of 89 yards rushing, and he had 140.
Yeah, I'll take that. Take him any day of the week.
Every Friday night we'll do that. So he's averaging 6.2 a yard or carry so far this year. Darian Tips had 9 attempts for 23 yards. Hudson had a couple of carries. Rupert had 9 carries for 60 yards. Overall, not bad. Not bad. 5 yards a carry on average. You take that.
It's a good performance, and also, keep in mind that as of this game right now, Rupert is completing over 61% of his passes, which
Wow.
for 5 games, that's third best in the GWAC. And I know sometimes that he's not going to pass for 255, 260 yards like some of these guys do, but when you're completing 61% of your balls, that's pretty good.
Well, especially when you got a running back like Yeomans, we know we talk about Yeomans a lot, but you got to put Clemens in there, you got to put Shrub in there. You've got some good running backs.
Yes, we do. We just got to make sure that we get those first downs, or we keep those chains moving, that we can do more with those guys. We got to keep our offense on the field, as well as get our defense off the field. And I think that's the responsibility of each one of them. I think our defense has to get off the field when they're supposed to, but I also think the offense needs to stay on the field when they're supposed to. And that means move those sticks, get those first downs, stay away from those turnovers.
Receiving wise, you finally got the ball out to the tall guy. Golden Ballman. Two receptions for an average of 16 yards.
He did it up. He did a nice job.
Cole had 2 receptions for 12 yards. And who else did we have in there? Oh, Yeomans had 1 for 35 for a touchdown. Lyman had 1 for 17. Honeycutt had -5. He kind of got caught.
Yeah,
that was a screen, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got him in that screen, and they ended up and had a man-type coverage, a spy on him, and they rolled the coverage up, and the guy arrived just as he got it in his hands.
On your special team, Hall had 5 punts, an average of 39 yards in the 5 punts. Had 2 of them inside the 20. Is that what I was reading? In the
2 inside the 20, 1 inside the 5.
Yeah,
that's
pretty good
stuff.
Lyman, you mentioned 4 before on the extra points, automatic stuff. Got to keep that going. Honeycutt on the returns, total of 103 yards. Boy, if he can get him to average 52 yards every time, that sets you up pretty nice offensively.
Nice. Hopefully, people are going to keep kicking to him.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. Defensively, Hall led all tacklers. It was pretty well spread out. Hill, Alex did a good job. As I mentioned earlier, I thought your tackling was a lot better this time. You had 1 sack in the ball game. I thought there was more than 1. Was there 1?
We had 4 on our stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was more than that. So everybody's doing their job, and we got to continue that way with them for the rest of the season, and especially when we get down to Butler this coming Friday night. Do you expect them to be a pretty good ball team as far as what we're talking about with the passing and rushing? That's what we're going to see.
Yeah, they're going to be a solid football team. They're going to be a football team that's just coming off 4 losses, and they're not going to be a team that's saying, "Hey, let's pack it in, let's start going to basketball practice." They're a team that's their backs against the wall, they're bunkered up, and they're going to be ready to play some football Friday night.
They're not going to be a happy bunch of football players. They're going to take it out on us. All right, well, Coach, thanks. Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I think we pretty much summed it up. Guys played pretty well, doing some things pretty well. I like what everybody's doing right now. A couple people came up to me after the game, including their coach, and told me what a great disciplined team our team was, and how our players work with a lot of class. And I shared that with the team today at our Monday meeting. And I thought I think sometimes that we leave some stuff like that out. But I thought our kids, played particularly well, and I think they do it with some class. We had 7 penalties, but all of our penalties are penalties that are timed penalties, meaning that they happen during the play. You get yourself in trouble when you get those untimed penalties. That stuff that happens at the end, the stuff that happens when the clock is stopped, and you should be stopped then too.
And you're talking about personal fouls that cause them to lose a bunch of yardage just because somebody was doing something
and then
that they weren't supposed to do.
You lose man time, because then you got to come out of the game, got to do this, and it's really a deflator. I know sometimes the kids think it's something that's going to pump everybody up, but it doesn't. It actually is a tempo killer.
Yeah.
And our players do a great job of, and hopefully I don't jinx ourselves, but they do a great job of trying to keep their composure.
Class act. You've always coached the class act.
Well, thank you.
All right, and another thing too is it ends up costing them timeouts because their coach has to call timeout to cool them off. So, well, anyway, good luck Friday night, Coach. We'll be down there, of course, to watch the ball game and root on the Indians, and we want you down there too. Vandalia is not that far away, and you can grab a sandwich on the way and get down there for the 7 o'clock ball game. So we want to thank you for watching. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, First Choice Paint and Body Shop on North 25A here in Piqua. We want to thank Coverman, Staley, Dickerson Insurance with the 3 offices in Miami County and Troy, Covington, and Piqua. And our brand new sponsors this week, Buckeye Insurance Group. We appreciate you being on board, and we thank you for your donation to Channel 5. I'm Lloyd Shoemaker, Coach Bill Neese. We'll see you next time.